Welcome to the latest episode of KapVista Klips. Today we are back again with Stephen from Hazel. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Where are you based at the moment?
In New York.
New
So that's why it's a bit, dark right now.
Yeah. But you're coming into the warmer weather, and we're heading into the cooler weather, so it's a swap.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. So we've been here before. We've done this. You've been on the KapVista platform and ecosystem. We've done an episode before. You've had success, but this is sort of a refresher. We want to find out, what's happened in the last 12 months. What's going to happen the next 12 months. What's the optimistic look for you? Coming up, and then the raise. But before we jump into that, give us a refresher. What is Hazel?
Yeah, so for those that don't know, Hazel's a modern brand for women dealing with bladder leaks. So, approximately about 50% of women will experience bladder leaks, and, the entire market and kind of existing offerings are really stigmatized. So we ended up developing not only, the next generation brand, but also new fiber technology. So, it's much thinner, much more breathable, holds just as much. Yeah, we're really kind of, going after the duopoly of the space.
Awesome. So, tell us about what the last 12 months looked like for you, because, you've had a lot of success. Last time you were working with KapVista, you raised a bit of capital through us, and you had a change in the direction of not a change, but a refocus, and now you've had a lot of success in the last 12 months. What did that look like?
Yeah, so when we initially launched, which was D2C, that was very much to learn about the customer and really use that as an engine to kind of iterate. So that being said, just kind of broadly speaking, about 70 to 80% of sales volume for personal care is done in a retail setting. So to your point, last year we actually entered retail for the very first time. We launched with a top 10 US retailer by the names of Meijer. So they do about $20 billion in top line. So we entered about half of their retail doors. And yeah, over the last 12 months, we learned more about who this customer is. And, I would say overall it was a great success. Could share more about the consumer insights, but the short of it is we went from half chain to later this month, we'll actually be expanding our offering full chain. So, I'd argue it went really, really well. And outside of Meijer, we ended up increasing our door count and our retailer base from, call it 150 doors or so to we'll be in about 1,500 doors by the end of this month, including, retailers of the like of Target. So that's, a huge focus for us, come this year.
Yeah. And then in terms of the number of doors, what did that look like from a revenue perspective?
Yeah, so from just a revenue opportunity standpoint, the 1,500 doors that will be in by the end of this month, that puts us at roughly a $4 to $5 million wholesale run rate. So from a retail sales perspective, anywhere between 8 and 10.
Okay, brilliant. So this is the 1,500 doors that is with your current partners, retail partners. What is the next 12 months? What does that look like by bringing on more retailers?
Yeah, so I think to kind of take a step back. So, initially we entered about 150 doors with Meijer. These are massive doors, similar size to a Walmart or a Target, and we ended 2024 with roughly 450 doors. So a lot of the growth is actually happening, this month from just a door count perspective, including Target. So we'll be rolling out into, slightly more than 300 doors with Target. which we're just obviously really excited about. They're like the you know number two retailer in the U.S. outside of Walmart, and just from a opportunity standpoint, Target full chain represents a $20 million wholesale opportunity for us.
Okay, amazing. So you're well on your path to major major exposure within the US, and Target is a huge partner, and a huge opportunity for you. And $1,500, is that just with two retailers?
No, so we'll be the 1,500 doors comprises of about 5 to 6 retailers. Some are, same company, but
Yep.
two banners. But yeah, and I think we're really excited about just kind of rolling this out into more doors, and having that national footprint. When we first launched with Meyer, is very concentrated, but that worked to our benefit, right? Could understand what was working from a marketing standpoint, working from a messaging standpoint. I think the best thing, one of the best insights that we saw, which just really gives us conviction on, bringing this to more and more people, is what we saw from just a customer behavior standpoint. So, not unique to Meyer. This is kind of data that we've seen across all of our retail partners, but about 2/3 of the customers that bought Hazel in a retail setting had never shopped this aisle before. And, as you can imagine, right, this is a highly stigmatized category. And, all estimates kind of put that like half of women that should be in this space completely opt out. And, you can't blame them, right? The existing products aren't great. So for us, that just gives us a ton of conviction that like we're not just taking share here, right, from the big players. This is very much growing the overall TAM of the category. So like it just shows that through a new brand, through real like IP, we can talk to a consumer that the big brands aren't able to, and that's really why a partner like Target leaned in, because everyone wants to talk to this customer. And we've proven that we can. So
Yeah, so that's a very interesting customer insight, and then that works well for your next 12-month focus, because then you can approach other retailers and say, well, this is the insights that we've gathered, because every one of those retailers want to connect with, as you said, that customer. They want to unlock that increase the size of that TAM.
yeah, and I know typically within like the CPG space, just getting on the radar of retailers or even securing a line review is no easy feat. But I think, like, to your point on our end, we have a pretty robust like retail pipeline. We're kind of in active conversations with all of the major retail partners, and yeah, to your point, it's just an incremental ad for everyone. So yeah, we're definitely excited about the growth to come, and just rolling Hazel out to more and more doors.
Yeah. So what does that look like for the next 12 months, 12 to 18 months? What are you focusing on? You've got a solid footing now, 1,500 doors at the end of this month, but what does that look like going forward? What are your goals? What do you want to achieve by the end of by the end of the next 12 months?
Yeah, so the outside of attracting this like new customer that has traditionally refused to shop the aisle before, outside of that, we've just seen amazing repeat rates. So again, with the retail partners that we have rolled out in, we're beating the incumbents in terms of repeat. So I think for us, we know that we have unique product, unique brand. We've unlocked real distribution here, so it's just driving as much trial as possible, right? It's getting the brand exposed to more and more consumers, because we know that when she tries the product, it's sticky and she comes back
Mhm.
and she tells us that it's better than what's out there. So outside of the retailers that we have launched and are launching in, we actually turned on Amazon a few months ago too. So we kind of see both working hand in hand to drive trial and continue to grow the overall the overall presence of Hazel, and that's really where our focus is using this capital that we're raising to support these retail launches and the support of Amazon, and continue to just grow the brand.
Yeah, that's an interesting one there. So what through Amazon are you able to get an insight on where the demand is for the next international markets?
So right now, we're strictly focused on just serving the U.S. But I think what's really unique is the Amazon just gives us the ability to get consumer insights faster, and it just confirms a lot of the goodness that we also saw in a retail setting. And I think with certain products, and not any different with ours, there's like a unique life stage that you want to start speaking to consumers where they're open to trying new products. And I think what we've seen, some of the learnings that we've seen on Amazon is our sweet spot is talking to that call it 35 to 45-year-old mom, right? It might be just a few years since she had her last child. She might be entering peri or post menopause, and actively looking for solutions. And that's where we've just seen the higher propensity to like enter the category. And I think again, just the overall population is getting older and older. And I think some of the other macro trends kind of fueling this category outside of that is the destigmatization of like women's health. We're finally kind of comfortable as a society talking about what pregnancy and postpartum looks like. And I think we're just kind of that natural fit, right? The legacy brands don't really have that ability to talk to the consumer, and when they try and they see their product offering, it just falls flat.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, great. And then tell us about your current capital raise, because you were successful in the capital raise. What was it, 18 months ago or 12 months ago?
Yeah, just about. Yeah.
Yeah. And now you've opened up another raise, and that's going to fuel the growth within these retailers. So tell us about that raise, how much you're raising, what's the use of funds for?
Yeah, so with this raise, we're targeting 3.5, and that's to support the these retail launches. Portion of that going towards marketing dollars, towards working capital, and like I said, I think the opportunity at hand is very much a big one, particularly with Target itself. So if you look at recent Target launches, I'll name some brands here, brands like Wonderbelly or Parasol or Vacation. Last year or the year prior, when these brands kind of launched within Amazon or within Target rather, they launched in 300 to 400 doors, similar to us. And then the very next year, those respective buyers brought them full chain, right? So it's very much in our cards to do so, especially, I think within our category, right? Like walk into any Target and like, it's a full aisle of dedicated product, but it's just Kimberly Clark and P&G. So I think it just says a lot that we were able to displace, some of their product lanes, and kind of make space for Hazel, especially that it's limited real estate. So yeah, we're really excited about that. And outside of Target, we're actually launching within one of the Ahold banners. So for those that aren't familiar with Ahold, it is actually the third largest grocer in the U.S. right after Kroger and Albertson. So in terms of opportunity there, that gives us the opportunity to expand into another 2,000 doors. So we're really excited about that as well.
Oh, wow. Okay. So 3.5 million is to support or the resources towards supporting these retail partners, expanding. You're in 400 and something doors with Target, and next year going to look, if the opportunity presents itself to get into full stores. So the $3.5 million is that, focusing on the next 12 to 18 months? How long is that run rate?
Yeah, from a runway perspective, it'll be obviously a function of, with retail in particular, you're always kind of pitching for next year. So you know, from a runway perspective, I think conservatively it'll give us 18 to 20 months, but depending on some of the active conversations we're having. So, outside of the targets and Ahold, we're, talking to, folks in Bentonville and, kind of all of those in between, might, might accelerate the need
Yeah.
to, raise more capital sooner than later. But, I think on our side, the really interesting inflection point that we're going to unlock this year is, which I think is really unique to us, is we have negotiated very favorable terms with our manufacturer. So once we cross a certain volume threshold, which we actually will in May, so right around the corner, we end up unlocking net 60 terms. So as you can imagine, right, normally consumer businesses are, capital heavy, right, in terms of like funding inventory and all of that. And long story short, in unlocking these terms, right, effectively our cash conversion cycle, goes from, X amount of days to basically, a fifth of that, right? So we can continue to just, recycle those dollars, fuel it into marketing, and grow the business that much more faster.
Yeah.
Which gets me really excited because, in my mind, that next raise, no matter if it's unlocking 4,000 Walmart doors, is not going to be, a function of the amount of doors that we're in today times, X dollars, right? We're just going to become that much more capital efficient.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you're currently at, what did you say, 4 million in revenue. That's, the opportunity there is to 20 million. So this raise gets you to, what conservative figures, or what would you be looking at? Just so an investor can understand that this is, this raises to fuel X amount of growth and what you're looking at.
Yeah. So our today's door count, which will continue to expand because, there's active conversations in the pipeline for even, new additional launches happening this year. Obviously still TBD, but the 1,500 doors will put us at a run rate of 4 million. We're not just at 4 today. And we expect Amazon to be at about, to end the year at about like 1 million. But in terms of the, I guess, the just the horizon here in terms of, what we expect this race to get us, will end up being, call it 18 months from now, to like a 10 to 12, revenue run rate. And then, continue to expand from there. Again, depending on, where these retailer conversations shake out, right? There's real opportunity to kind of even pull that forward faster, right? Just given the step change function of, unlocking some of these big retail accounts. And I think, the last thing to kind of state is, I think when you see a lot of CPG brands out there in the marketplace, particularly like food and beverage, it's usually, a slog of, unlocking these, independents and, natural grocers, right, to kind of work your way up to the Targets and Walmarts of the world. And I think, for us, right, like we were able to unlock a top 10, retailer as our first retailer, and then subsequently unlock Target, right? So I think we're really, confident in what we're putting out in the marketplace. And I think, the results kind of, prove out what we've been able to do.
Amazing. I'm not going to take up any more of your time. Thank you very much for jumping on. That was pretty insightful. This is an exciting opportunity. You are well along your way. There's good, momentum. You've got good partners, good retailers. This is a pretty exciting opportunity. So if anybody's watching this updated episode and want to get want to speak to Stephen about Hazel, please reach out to my team and we can connect you straight away. But,
Awesome.
thank you very much for jumping on.
Yeah, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.